pretty happy with it. I'm aware it's a very competitive major, and I I applied like last year and this year to
Mm-hmm.
universities, so I know getting accepted as an international student is pretty much hard, and in computer science that only makes it harder.
Mm.
But I still shot my shots and I got good results. They're not as good as I expected, but I'm happy with what I got.
Well, that's
The
good.
only the only issue is, and I still remember it, there was a standardized test in my home country. It's out of 100,
Mm-hmm.
and I needed to have 80 for me to go on a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
If I get lower than that, I'm out. Um, But if I want to study computer science in my home country, it's like I need at least 95 or I'm out of the competition.
Ooh, that's stiff. You can only
Huh.
be in the top 5%.
So I took the test twice, and due to COVID, usually you have two chances for the test. Usually you receive the results of the first one before, like you take the second one, but due to COVID and how weird it was, I had to take them both back to back.
Oh.
And, and I still remember that day. I was out getting dinner, and while I was waiting for the food in the car, I got a message for my acceptance in the scholarship. Then I got a message for my grade, and it was 80 exactly.
Oh.
It was 80 by the point. And I went back home and I told my mother that I got accepted. And she was happy. And then she asked me, how much did you get in the test? And I told her 80. Her face went 180. So I was like, and you're proud? You should be ashamed of yourself.
But why? Like, if there's no benefit to getting above 80, getting exactly 80 makes it pass fail. That's all that is.
That's exactly what I said, and I walked away.
That brings up a really interesting subject that I would like to ask you, if you're willing to answer a couple of questions on, and that is
Yeah.
dealing with school during COVID, because the generation that is going through school right now will always be remembered as the COVID generation because of how that affected them either attending school or learning because they weren't set up properly for online learning. I really want to know your thoughts on everything that has transpired for the school system during this pandemic.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. Like the first year, no one knew exactly how things were going. Um, Like we had some classes cancelled because they weren't really that much of important, and it's kind of hard to explain it to universities that in 11th grade I didn't really have final exams. I had a project to do, and it's weird, but that's what happened due to COVID. But in grade 12, it was more organized. And I'm definitely familiar with Zoom way too much. Although if they moved to Discord, it would be much, much better, to be honest.
So you say that again? Move to what?
To Discord.
Oh, Discord instead of Zoom. Oh yeah. Well, I I will say that utilizing Zoom is going to prepare you for more of the corporate world because the corporate world runs on Zoom or WebEx or GoToMeeting, not Discord. Discord is not very prevalent outside of user
Gaming
use,
world.
yeah, gaming use. So getting kids a lot more familiar with these collaboration platforms will just help them in that next step, because they'll be like, oh yeah, we zoomed all through school, I'm totally used to this platform, or something of that nature. But it sounds like your experience was somewhat favorable because you were able to continue on doing what you needed to do, where I've talked to younger kids, and it basically was awful to the point of being not worth anybody's time, because the teachers weren't able to teach properly over Zoom. The school systems weren't ready for the remote learning. Uh, Whole grades couldn't graduate because they couldn't finish the school year properly. But that seems like it's more grade school problems, whereas university levels, it seems like they were able to adapt rather quickly. Very interesting. If you don't mind me asking, what country is this?
Oh, yeah. So, uh, I'm ready for the stereotypes. I'm from Saudi Arabia, uh, and most people would think that's just because I'm from Saudi Arabia, I'm rich, or that uh, I work and money falls out of my pocket. But I,
Having dealt with a lot of people from the region, I know that not to be true. Having spent a lot of time in the military and working for the DoD, I am aware of a lot of those stereotypes. But one thing that I thought was relatively true, at least in the major populated areas, was decent internet. But I'm guessing that your your town was a little off the grid. It sounds like you had options though, which is interesting, because when you compare that to the United States, COVID shined the light on the fact that our infrastructure is garbage in a lot of places. So the fact that you said we tried different things, a lot of places in the United States, you have one option, and if it sucks, it sucks. So at least elevated over the U.S. was your situation. Even if the providers there weren't great, you at least had more than one.
yeah, in just about a week from now, I will be moving to the southwest for like a summer program. And not gonna lie, I don't have a call on that. If I had a call, I would have just stayed for the summer program here where I'm currently living. But the scholarship says something, I say yes. I have already sold my soul.
I completely understand. Where in the Southwest you headed? Like California, or a little bit more east, like Arizona, New Mexico?
I'm heading to Arizona.
Aha, okay. I'm very
It's
familiar with Arizona.
the one thing we have over like Arizona. Back home, it's like wherever you want to go, you could use your car and you have an AC. That's a lifesaver. Although, I would say to be like really concerned from the seatbelt, it's your number one enemy whenever you ride the car.
Oh, absolutely. Like, speaking from experience here, when going out to one's vehicle after it's been sitting in the hot Arizona sun, there may or may not be a burn mark on my body still from touching the metal of a seatbelt.
I still remember one day I left a hand sanitizer bottle in the car. I forgot it. When I came back, it was melted.
Oh, I believe it. You have to like lean into the car, turn on the AC, and like step back or go back inside where the AC is, because that thing is not going to be ready to drive for at least 5 minutes. Uh, uh,
I
uh,
know too well.
where or if you have the remote start, you're like remote starting that thing People think remote start for winter. Nah, remote start for Arizona, my friend. It's because you need to get that AC running, or the running from the door to the car to the back to the door because it's so ripping hot outside.
You know, it's like I feel that I grew soft here compared to back home. Like I, s- I once did it, and I don't know why. My mom told me she wanna go shopping, and it was like around 50 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure how much is it in Fahrenheit.
50 degrees Celsius, that would be over 100 Fahrenheit. So I want to say that's at least 110. My Celsius is horrible, so, but I know that to be over 100.
Yeah, I I ran outside without my shoes to turn on the car, and the fault was so hot that it burned my legs that it wasn't
Oh,
worth it.
how could you even think about running out with no shoes on? Oh my, you are either brave or something else.
It was for two reasons. First, I needed to avoid the car being hot because I won't be able to touch the steering wheel or drive it. Um, so I needed to turn on the car. And the second reason, I went to the wrong exit. I went to the like I usually go into the back door, not the main door. So my shoes were on the back door, and I went out through the front door. So I'm not going back,
Oh, right.
and it wasn't worth it. I rather be burnt by the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Look, I have. I'm not sure if I could say friends because I'm gonna be honest. Like I don't have much of people that I could say that they are really my friends that I spend many time with. But I do have people who, if I would meet after a year, I would still be great friends with. And while I was back home, I used to hang out with a couple of groups of friends. With ones, I would go to expensive restaurants that I would pay $100 for a meal before leaving, and with others, I would go to like some small restaurants where if I pay like $5, it would be like too much, and it might even taste way better than the one that I paid $100 in.
It's kind of funny how that works sometimes because some of the best food I've ever eaten have been in like hole in the wall mom and pop authentic style restaurants where there's just that much more love and attention paid for the food, and then it still ends up being like reasonably priced or actually cheap or anything like that. Uh, since you're going into Arizona, there are more than a few hole in the wall Mexican places that the food is just out of this world and you pay basically nothing for it, or the taco trucks and stuff like that. It's just so good. Whereas you go to an upscale restaurant, like you said, you may drop $100 on yourself but not really feel satisfied. I mean, there are definitely great restaurants that you're going to pay a lot of money for, but I have definitely encountered more than a few where $50 or $100 to the bill, and I'm like, that was not worth $50 or $100.
So first, like like knew how to drive in high school, like before getting my license. I got it like when I was 17, but I've known how to drive since I was 15, 16. Uh, I've mainly been driving in town, so that wasn't much of an issue. But I've, the second car was supposed to be for my mom, but I'm the one who took control of it, since I'm the one who goes out and uses it most of the time,
hmm
which was both a curse and a blessing. Um,
Right. The bless. Let me guess. see if I'm wrong here. The blessing is you get the freedom to use the vehicle. The curse is you're going to run every single errand they ask you to do.
You couldn't be more correct. Made me decide not to follow him wasn't in the desert, it was in the middle of the city.
Okay,
I
I'm listening.
I will I think I will need I'm gonna say them in kilometers because I'm not in the
That's
I'm still not used to the conversion.
that's 1.6 kilometers to a mile, but yeah, you say kilometers, we can estimate.
Yeah, it was in a road that was like around 60, 70 road like limits,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say about 50 or yeah, 50s, even or maybe even less. And the road was jam packed, and we were driving around 130. Uh, we we were going in between cars, and I was following him because my at that time my phone wasn't working, so I wasn't exactly sure where we're heading. I only know it by name. So I followed him until I was between two choices, or technically three. I could go left, and I might crash into one of the two cars, or I could go right and crash into a truck, or I could just slow down and let him be. And I picked the third one.
It's just, yeah, you picked the smart one there. Yeah, that one hits a little close too. Yeah, that one is. I wasn't an only child, but I was the oldest, so I was in charge of all the driving for a lot of things. So yeah, that one hits close.
Yeah, being the only child, you being the oldest and the youngest in the same time.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if it's a good combination.
Well, yeah, I don't actually know. Like, I've definitely been friends with a lot of people that have been only children, have been multiple children, have been the oldest, the middle, the youngest. One thing that's universal is the middle child usually gets bullied the most.
Yeah.
So uh, that one seems to be pretty true. And then the oldest typically is the golden child, or at least the oldest male. Uh, Sometimes it's not if it's the oldest female, but depending on the parents, it can just be
Yes.
the straight up oldest is the golden child, and then the youngest is always the baby.
Yep. Um, it's like going as an only child. I would say it was boring. I I know many people envy me because I'm an only child and I get all this care. I don't want half of it. If I could be studying in peace with no one pressuring me to get 100%, I would be much, much, much happier. You know, I'm gonna be honest. I'm someone that likes to talk much, and I haven't really covered half of the list I had. No, I'm not gonna lie. I I didn't really organize them for one reason. I felt that whichever way I go, I would like they're all connected. So basically, depending on how the conversation go, I could go into another points.
Okay.
But since I have the chance to ask, and it's a main big part of like my journey the last 3 years, and for me, it's like it's not a secret. Everyone is seeing my persona right now. I'm a fairy, and is that something that is common or well accepted? No. It's like fairies now are the butt of the joke for everyone on the internet, and it's very understandable why. And I don't blame them, to be honest.
I mean, it isn't it. It is one of those sort of punching bag type items, but when you look at some of the technological achievements, you have to you have to you have to give credit where credit is due. To be able to sustain a lifestyle that they want, they have come up with some remarkable you can't even call it cosplay at this point, just the suits that are put together and what they're capable of doing, and the cooling systems that they've built into them. There's some real technological marvels that the furry community has actually come up with, and the level of detail that they put into like the really good costumes, not the not the Party City style ones, the ones that they actually put effort into. There's a lot of money that goes into that. So when you want to give credit to whether you want to call it a lifestyle, whether you want to call it hobby, there's definitely some credit that they deserve. Now, going on to the other aspect, is it cringy? Is it the punching bag of a lot of jokes? Yes, it is. To people who don't like it, it definitely can fall into that. For me, I am somebody who is tolerant of many different walks of life, so I don't really have an opinion either way. Like it comes down to me, like, you do you. If that's what you're comfortable doing, then you do it. I'm not one of the ones that is going to sit there and make fun of somebody if they're furry. But like I said, there are some respect items because of the achievements that the community has actually been able to put forth. Now, there are some definite bad things about the community, like the fabled stories of like the cons that wrecked hotels and stuff like that. There's some bad aspects to it too.
Being in the community, I've heard bad stories, and like following up on your points, I've seen like suits where it's like $1,000 and upward,
Oh,
and
easily.
it's really expensive. For me personally, I'm not interested in like wearing like a fursuit. I'm more interested on the aspect like of the sauna itself. It's a way to show yourself, and it's definitely different. And for me, I think I'm pretty thick-skinned. I'm a weeb, and I've been there when weebs were the punching bags of the internet. So I'm still part of the punching bags of the internet right now. My father being working on the hospital, I have priority because I'm technically affiliated to the hospital, so I don't go to the like regular uh part of the hospital. I go for the workers part. Like,
Oh, we got that VIP treatment.
yes, and things like I've benefited from it. And coming here, I've struggled from a killer headache like the previous 3-4 days, where I would just wake up and feel like my eyes flaming, and I would never go to any care centers. I'm just going with the painkillers.
So what you've described is way more common with Americans. Is they will try to play through the pain rather than go to the hospital, or heaven forbid that you need to take a ride in an ambulance. Like, it started out as a joke, but is legitimately true now. People would rather call an Uber to take them to the hospital than call an ambulance, because that ambulance ride is going to be expensive. Between $1,500 and $3,000 or more is the average cost for an ambulance ride.
Yeah, I still don't understand the insurance and how it works, but the two things I remember from the lecture we had was never take an ambulance and only go to the emergency room if you're gonna die.
My tip for today actually is very poignant based off of one of the things that you said. Ask yourself, what does it matter to me the next time you find yourself judging someone for their clothing, interests, or hobbies? The more you train yourself not to care about the personal preferences of other people, the more relaxed and nicer you become as a person. And that's my tip of the day.
It's definitely a great tip, not gonna lie.
I want to thank you, Mèsh, very much for coming on. I hope to see you again. I want to thank everybody who was in the chat today. Wasn't a lot of people here today, but that's okay. And I want you all to remember that I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together. Keep it real.